Oh, wow. The 49ers are coming off of a great 4-0 start. But more importantly, I don't know about Ryan. I'll get his take here in a minute. But to me, I've already forgotten about the first 4 weeks. To me, it's Cowboy week. The season officially starts now. There's so much to talk about going well with the 49ers. We can talk about the Cowboys matchup. We're going to talk about a lot, and we're going to do it all next. All right. Welcome back to Last Second Sports, where we are giving you our take down to the last second. And it's Tuesday afternoon, which means I've got my guy, Ryan G. Hensley, with me. Ryan, what's up, brother?
Tis I, Ryan G. Hensley. Nice to see you, Jesse.
In the flesh. In the flesh. I see the chat is already jumping. We got Mike in here. We got this guy, JC, reminding us that every inch does matter. That's right. Mark, what's up? Raphael, Frank. Okay. We got the chat going. Eddie V, Moon Man, Manny Sanchez. Okay. All right. We got the regulars in here. We're feeling good. We're feeling fresh. All right. The 49ers have done a lot of great things so far, Ryan. We can talk about, it seems like there's 10 players that could be MVPs on most teams in the league, but the 49ers, they're all right because CMC's having such a historical season. What has been the most impressive thing so far about the San Francisco 49ers just 4 weeks into the season?
I got to go with Brock, man. I really do. I was hesitant on Brock for a long time. Didn't want to crown him, such a small sample size. But what he's been able to do, obviously CMC is a big part of it. Kyle's a big part of it. The whole team is a big part of it. But to be drafted 7th overall, never lose a game, go down with a UCL injury, come back by week 1, just to be ready in general is impressive. And then be better than you were before the injury. It's just remarkable. Like, honestly, I did not expect it. I was expecting Brock to turn into a pumpkin this year. I didn't think he'd be ready for week 1. And he continues to prove my doubts incorrect. So to me, it's Brock Purdy, man. He's the most impressive thing so far for the 49ers. They've struck gold on a quarterback that cost them essentially nothing. And he's running this offense as well as Kyle Shanahan could ask for.
There's a lot of impressive things to say about Brock. And I would say for me, the most impressive thing about Brock Purdy himself is that how quickly you're already starting to see that ascension. Like, one thing that I talked about this offseason was don't expect him week 1 to just be better than he was last year, because he didn't have the offseason to get better. Like, just temper expectations. And I would say the first 3 weeks that was the case. And I said, you know what, as the season goes along, I think you're going to see him improve. You're starting to see that. This last week was like the ultimate step forward, showing that growth, showing that improvement. And it wasn't just the completion percentage for me. Yes, very impressive. 20 for 21, started out 13 for 13. All those things are great. But you can have a high completion percentage in this league and not be accurate or not show accuracy.
Yes.
And I would say the last 2 weeks, he was off the mark. He was throwing balls behind players. He wasn't leading them the way that he normally does. This week, not only was he 20 for 21, I can't think of but maybe one throw that was off target-ish. Like, he was on the money the whole way through. I don't care if every pass was less than 10 yards. I don't care if every guy's running wide open. To be on the money for a full game and dialed in for 21 throws or 20 of 21 throws. And really, the only reason they had an incompletion was because of McKivitz. McKivitz allowed the sack the play before, and then there was pressure coming on the very next play. If that sack didn't happen, the 49ers likely would have scored a touchdown every single time they touched the ball, other than the drive to end the half, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane to think about. So Brock Purdy, certainly there's no...
Can I run down some numbers, Jess?
Yeah, do it. Yeah, let's do it.
So every Tuesday morning, I tweet out these numbers and to find the direction. I've done it every single week.
Yeah.
after week 4 now. So Brock Purdy, completions and attempts don't really mean much to me, but he's 20th and 26th in that ranking, right? He's not asked to pass as much. So that doesn't really make a difference to me. But now completion percentage, he's third overall in the NFL with 72.3, which is
Mhm.
trending up over the last 3 weeks. Yards, he's 8th right now, trending up. His average is second, which is the same ranking, but the average went up at 9.1. Yards per game is trending up, 254 per game. His long, not really important. He's 31st in that, but touchdowns 12th. He's not throwing a ton of touchdowns, but that's kind of irrelevant when you have CMC. He has 0
I
interceptions still. Go
one
ahead.
thing.
Yeah.
If you can do this, and
Mhm.
maybe are you just doing throwing touchdowns in that?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so going forward, an omission if you can make, or an
Yeah.
addition, I should say, do all touchdowns for the
Gotcha.
quarterbacks because some quarter and Brock Purdy included, right? He has a couple rushing touchdowns, which I think would help his number. But also, you got guys that Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen and these guys that equate for more touchdowns than just throwing. I'd be
Yes.
curious to see like how that moves him up as well, because like I said, he has a couple himself. So
Noted. I will add that just for you, my friend.
thank you. Just say it's the Jesse stat,
The
yeah.
Jesse stat. But here's where it gets even better, man. 0 interceptions, obviously phenomenal to have 0 interceptions through 4 games. So he's first with that, tie with first. Sack, he's 10th with 7. But here's the two big ones. He's first in QBR and rating. His QBR is 84.6 and his rating is 115.1. Both are trending up right now. He's first in the NFL in both.
Yeah. I mean, he's playing fantastic. It's funny because a lot of people are like, okay, so are we like, what is he in the league? And this is where people get frustrated with me. I think it's funny because you and I had different reservations with him this year. Very different. Like listening to you talk and the way that you talked yesterday, you talked about how you thought he would basically turn into a pumpkin this year. And one thing that I've been saying pretty consistently is like, I don't think he's going to turn into a pumpkin. I still want to see him long term without so many weapons. I know already, like one thing we do know, and you don't need a lot of games to figure this out, at least for me, is that he's going to play well with these weapons around him. And he might be enough to win a Super Bowl. Like that's, and I still obviously feel that. I mean, I'm not going to move off that now. That would be asinine as he's ascending, right?
Mhm.
But, a lot of people are like, okay, well, is he a top 10 quarterback in the league? My whole thing is instead of saying, hey, is he a top 10 quarterback in the league? Let's just do a power ranking look at it, because to say somebody is top 10, you have to see multiple years from people. I'm sorry. You just have to see it for multiple years. But right now in this moment, Brock's not top 10 if we're doing a power rankings. Brock's top 3 if we're doing a power rankings. I mean, let's keep it a buck. Who's playing better right now between he and Mahomes? I know this sounds crazy to say, but he's playing better football than Patrick Mahomes is. Now, he's not better than Mahomes. Nobody in their right mind is taking him over Mahomes. But in a quarterback power ranking, he's playing way better than Burrow. Burrow, I don't know what the hell's going on there. All you guys that said he was better than Josh Allen this offseason, come talk to me. So Burrow, he's playing way better than him. He's playing better than Mahomes. He's playing better than Lawrence and Hurts. Like all the guys that you would have had in your top 7 this year outside of Herbert and Allen, he's playing better than. Like he's playing like a top 3 quarterback right now. And so I don't know how long that will last. Maybe that's who he is forever. All I care about is right now, what is he playing like? He's playing like an elite quarterback. Does that make him elite? I don't know. I'm going to have to see it for multiple years before I go that far. But is he playing elite right now? Absolutely he is. Absolutely he is.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm a little bit more cautious on that side of things. Like, I think he is playing fantastic. He is playing as good as you could ask for from a 49ers quarterback. There's nothing Kyle wants him to do that he's not able to do right now. And so
Mhm.
that's what really matters. I think when I look at power rankings, I look like what would all these quarterbacks you're mentioning, what would they look like on the 49ers? Now, that's a different discussion for me. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to compare him to Mahomes yet, but as far as like what he's doing, he is playing as well as you could ask for, as well as Kyle could want. He is doing everything Kyle's asking. So, no complaints. Anyone complaining about Brock at this point, I mean, you're just I mean, I was one of the biggest, like, and for the record, I never said he was going to turn into a pumpkin. I just was like suspicious that it might
You were
happen. I was
hesitant. Yeah, I got you.
hesitant. I didn't want to crown him yet, but I mean, at this point, he's doing everything you could possibly want from him. There's nothing to critique him on anymore. So, I mean, I'm happy. Now, I will say, and we're going to talk about this later, I think, on the show, but they haven't played a lot of tough opponents. Now, this is the time where we'll really see what him and the rest of the 49ers are made of.
Yeah, most certainly. And like I said, I'm not trying to throw him in a Mahomes category. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'll give you another example. CJ Stroud, who I had, and I believe you did too, as
Yeah.
the clear number one quarterback coming out of this year's draft.
Yeah.
He has looked every bit probably better than what I expected coming out of the gate. So again, I mean, maybe I'm a CJ Stroud hater also because he's looked better than what I expected as a rookie, even though I had him as my number one quarterback. I don't know. You guys tell me. You guys tell me how the hater thing works. I'm just here doing a
Yeah.
show, but CJ Stroud is playing really good football. Like if I'm doing a quarterback power ranking, he's probably in my top 5 right now as well, especially with the lack of weapons he has and how precise he's been, how he's been taking care of the football. Like he's doing very impressive things. Now we're 4 games into a career. I don't know what he's going to be in 2 years. I'm not here to decide that. I'm not going to then say, okay, CJ Stroud's a top 15 quarterback. I don't know. But if I'm doing a power rankings, which is very, very different, that changes literally week to week, game to game, he'd be in my top 5 for the power rankings. Now, that doesn't mean I'm taking him over Mahomes and Burrow and you know what I mean? I just don't know yet. It's way too early for that. And that's where I'm at with Purdy. It's like, yes, Purdy has a bigger track record. If I'm doing a power rankings, he's in my top 3 right now. He just is. But I'm not saying he's a top 3 quarterback. Those are very different things to me. Maybe it's semantics, but to me, those are very, very different things.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. And speaking of Stroud, man, like phenomenal. Maybe outside of
So
Brock,
good.
maybe
So
outside of
good.
Brock, like the best rookie performance. Brock didn't lose, but like number wise, Stroud is better than what Brock was doing in his first, 4 games. So he's just such a natural thrower of the football. That's why I
So
had him
good.
ranked the best quarterback coming out of the draft last year. When you just watch him, it's just so effortless for him, and he's just so accurate. So D'Amico, well done, man. Happy for D'Amico. I like him. He's a good coach. Texans are, I think, 2-2 right now. And
Yeah.
Stroud is way better than a lot of people thought. So it's fun to watch. But yeah, man, Purdy's hooping.
He is he is hooping. He is
Yeah.
hooping. I would say the most impressive thing for me so far, we just went on a whole tangent of how impressive Purdy is, but
Yeah.
I'll take it a little bit different direction just since we just spent 15 minutes saying that Brock Purdy was impressive. I would just say overall, how this team seemed to skip 0 beats from the end of last season, before the Brock Purdy injury, to the beginning of the season. They have not skipped a beat. CMC, the offense, Brock Purdy, Brandon Ayuk, everything. Like they just look every bit as impressive. They look like they're making a push for the playoffs right now. And it's week freaking 5. They're going into week 5. They've had 4 games. They look like they're making a playoff push. That to me is the most impressive thing. I knew that they were going to play with a sense of urgency. We've been calling it a Super Bowl or bust season, not from the standpoint that somebody's going to get fired, but because this core is going to dissipate soon. Like we just have to look at reality. In 2 years, there's a lot of major players on this team that are not going to be a part of this team. It's just the way that it is. They're aging. They're expensive. Some of these guys are going to go. So for this team as it's currently constructed, this might be their last best chance. They're playing like it. And I love to see that out the gate. It's very, very impressive what they're doing. And it's in all 3 phases of the game, up through coaching. Like everything that you could do well, they're doing well. It's awesome to watch.
Yeah, and here's a cool thing. I mean, the Niners are breaking all kinds of records, whether it be CMC or Brock Purdy or whatever. But if the 49ers beat the Cowboys this Sunday, that makes 5 regular season wins in a row, which is a franchise record for the 49ers. The 49ers have never won more than 14 games in a row, through multiple seasons or whatever. But it's regular season games in a row. If they beat the Cowboys, that's 15 regular season games in a row, which is a 49ers franchise record. So it's remarkable.
It's insane to think about. You think about all the history on this team. It's absolutely insane to. All right. CMC. Is he the best offensive weapon the 49ers have had since Jerry Rice? And I'm going to let you answer that question and turn my camera off and shut my dogs up because they are going crazy at something right now. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. I got this. All right, man. Now that Jesse's gone, let's actually just talk about Jesse instead. No, I'm kidding. CMC absolutely is the best offensive weapon since Rice, in my opinion. I can't think of another one. What he's doing is remarkable. He's trending to be an MVP this season. He might be an MVP candidate, the first non-quarterback MVP in a long time. So CMC is absolutely the best offensive weapon. It's almost scary how much CMC is used a little bit, right? Like because he's I think he had 27 touches last game, 20 rushes, 7 receptions. He is the whole 49ers offense right now. I would almost like to see that change a little bit. But he is just remarkable. He broke Jerry Rice's record for most consecutive touchdowns in a game with 13 games in a row. And guess what? He's only been here for 13 games. So absolutely, he's the best offensive weapon since Jerry Rice. I hope the dogs are good now.
They are good. Soul Certified says, if y'all forgot about T.O., well, first of all, I haven't answered. So I don't know who y'all is. But no, we I don't think anybody's forgot about T.O. T.O. is fantastic. Don't get me wrong. T.O. is a hell of a player, arguably the second best wide receiver of all time. But when you're just talking about everything that is brought to the table by CMC, the amount of games he's gone with a touchdown, the amount of different ways that you can get the ball in his hands. I mean, if a team wanted to not remove T.O. from a game, but if they're like, listen, we're just in a bracket coverage him all game, they can limit what he was going to do. CMC, there is no way to limit him. What are you going to do? Are you going to put a corner on him when he's playing receiver? There's not a linebacker that can cover him one-on-one. There's probably not a safety that can cover him one-on-one. So you can bracket coverage him. Okay, that's great. Well, now he can run the ball 25 times a game. There's no way to stop CMC from touching the football many times throughout the course of a game. And when he touches it, he's a threat every single time. I mean, this guy could be bottled up for 10 runs in a row and then boom, it's 60 yards.
Yeah.
He does everything. He does literally
he could throw for
everything.
one too.
He can throw for one too. Exactly. He can throw for one. I mean, they had to do their best to not give him 5 touchdowns this week. They're like, okay, man, somebody else, like use check, you try a couple times. Okay, Purdy, you sneak it in. If they wanted to, they could have given him the ball right away and he would have just scored and that would have been his 5th touchdown. Like CMC is dominating the game. And yes, Brock Purdy has been awesome. But even before Brock Purdy took over, let's not forget that this team went 4-1. Their only loss was to an eventual Super Bowl champion in the Kansas City Chiefs. And that was with CMC on the team for 4 days. Yeah. The next week, CMC threw for a touchdown, ran for a touchdown, and caught a touchdown in his first full week with the team and went 4-0 with Jimmy Garoppolo. And I don't know if you've been watching Jimmy Garoppolo play football this year.
Boy's trash.
He went 4 straight games without turning the ball over when CMC was incorporated into this game plan. Yeah. That is not normal. It's never, in fact, it had never happened for 3 straight games for Jimmy Garoppolo. It happened for 4 straight games, and that happened to coincide with CMC arriving on this team. CMC is the ultimate difference maker. Now, I doubt he's going to get an MVP award, and I mean, if he keeps this pace, it'd be tough to not give it to him, but running backs, it's really hard to get an MVP award. It's AP is the last one to do it in like 2012, something like that. So it's been a long time. But early on in this season, I mean, he is on pace to break record after record after record. He's getting better. He is by far the best running back in the NFL right now. It is not close. It's not. Chubb was probably second in my opinion. He's now out for the year. Henry is, on the decline. He's getting older. You've got Taylor, who hasn't even played yet this year. He's in a contract dispute. You've got Saquon Barkley, who can't stay healthy either. I mean, who's here to even hold a candle to what he's doing? Bijan Robinson?
If he continues at this pace, he will absolutely win MVP. But, we'll see if that trend continues. But if he's playing like he is right now and everything continues on this trajectory through 17 games, zero chance they can not give this guy MVP.
Yeah. This is hard. You can't say, and I'm going to take Brock out of it too. It's hard to equate quarterback versus running back because a quarterback touches the ball every single time. Don't get me wrong. If we're doing a 4-game MVP, I'm giving it to CMC. I just know that the league traditionally gives it to quarterbacks. Right now, Josh Allen is playing out of his fucking gourd. I don't know if you've seen him play this year, but my God, this man had 5 touchdowns and 4 incompletions this last week. The throws he's making on some of his incompletions are like the craziest throws you've ever seen. Like, they're insane what he's doing. Go watch JT O'Sullivan's breakdown. I have never seen him break down a quarterback and get giddy the way that he did. He was like a child watching Josh Allen play. He was so excited. I know people say, I love Josh Allen. Watch JT O'Sullivan's breakdown this week. It's only about 22 minutes. The way he giggled throughout that video is like, dude, this guy, what the hell am I watching? It's incredible. Josh Allen's playing out of his freaking gourd right now. I would say Herbert's playing out of his gourd too. Purdy is as well. Like, all three. Yeah. Like, that's why I said when I did my quarterback power rankings, I'd have Purdy in the top 3. Like, that would probably be the top 3 as far as power rankings go right now.
When you watch Josh Allen, though, it's like he's carrying that team, right? Like he's putting the team on his back. He is the offense. Yeah. So that's the big difference, I think, with like a Josh Allen and a Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy is running the offense perfectly. Josh Allen is the offense for the Bills.
MVPs are not perfect. It is not the most perfect award. That's not the way that works. Like, you're probably joking, Double B Studio. You're probably joking, but dude, just watch him play football. My gosh, it's incredible. All right, Double B Studio says he comes back now. He says he just won MVP of the Month award right now. Yeah, and deservedly so. Offensive Player of the Month for sure is exactly what he just got, which is kind of like Offensive Player of the Year. All I'm saying, Double B, is that if he is going to win it, he's going to have to be like far and away the best player in the league, because if it's even close, they're going to give it to a quarterback. It's unfortunate. It's just the way that the league works. It's just the way. I feel
like if he just does what he's doing now, he'll win it. But the question is, can he continue this pace throughout the season?
And do we want him to continue this pace? That's the other question.
I don't care about the MVP award. I want him to be healthy in the postseason.
Yeah. Same here. I mean, if I'm choosing health versus MVP award, I'm taking health. But yeah, if we can get both. That would be great too. Yeah. Yeah. I'll take it. Yeah. Okay. So the 49ers have 12 picks in this upcoming draft, it seems, with the compensatory picks that'll be coming their way. They have a first rounder for the first time in a while, a second rounder, 3 third rounders, 2 fourth rounders because of the Cowboys trade, couple 6 rounders. They have a lot of draft picks. So 12 picks. I think we can agree they're not going to make 12 picks in this upcoming draft. They made too many picks this last year, and they made a trade to try to bring that down a little bit. Yeah. They have a ton of money, a boatload of money right now that they can spend. Now, we also know that they need to roll a majority of that over so that they can pay their guys going forward. I get all of that. But with these 12 picks and with this abundance of money, are you I'm not what position, none of that matters, but just overall, are you expecting at this point that the 49ers make a move at the trade deadline?
I think so. And the reason why, I mean, for a lot of reasons, right? First of all, they're not going to take 12, like you said. They don't have a lot of need on this team. They do need to draft tackles at both sides. They need to draft high, go after some tackles. What else would there's something else I wanted to say that they needed to draft, and it just slipped my mind. But they do need to draft tackles on both sides. Oh, a tight end. I don't believe in the tight ends that they drafted this year. So I still think that's a need. So tackles and tight ends is a definite need for the 49ers going into the draft next year. But I don't expect them to maintain all 12 picks. I think this is the year where you go all in, and they're just trying to figure out what that means for them right now. They're trying to see what the need is. And that need could be different, in week 7 than it is right now. Knock on wood, if something happens to somebody. Hopefully it doesn't. But
Yeah.
I think I do expect. I mean, the 49ers went, surprised a lot of people trading for CMC last year. No one really expected that. I think we're going to see something similar this year from the 49ers because I know they got to believe in this team and how they're playing and the potential to actually win the Lombardi this year. So I expect them to make a big move, a splash move, and trade some of those draft picks to go get a guy before the draft deadline. I'm not sure who it's going to be though.
Yeah, I think that they have to make some sort of move. I don't know if it's going to be the giant splash. 49ers do seem to splash at the trade deadline. Like, let's go through the history of the years they've been competitive, right? So the first year that they were super competitive, it was Emmanuel Sanders. In the offseason, they also got D Ford. Okay, so that's 2 splashes there. One right before the trade deadline. You had the CMC splash, which obviously we know what that did for this team. I expect that the 49ers will make a deal, and it'll probably be a little bit bigger than what we're expecting. It's tough to say just because we don't know who's on the trade deadline. We're going to know in the next week or so. People are going to start talking, though. Those conversations are going to be had. We do know the guys like Jonathan Taylor out there. That just doesn't make sense to me. I know I've heard Larry talk about it, and I like where his mind's at from the standpoint that, hey, like, just make the trade to block other teams from getting him, if anything. And it's like, well, yeah, but also Jonathan Taylor is going to want to get paid and want to play a lot. We just talked about CMC being the MVP of the league and the best offensive weapon since Jerry Rice potentially on this team. So I don't know if that's the move, but there's going to be players that are moved. I think receiver is also a position to look at, but I don't think the 49ers are going to be in that market. So really, who's going to become available as a pass rusher? Who's going to become available as a corner? And heaven forbid if an offensive lineman becomes available, which is very unlikely.
Yeah.
That's probably where the 49ers are going to look to make some sort of splash during this trade deadline as it approaches, I would think.
I got one for you.
Yeah.
What about tight end?
Oh,
Could you imagine how dangerous the 49ers would be if they had a second tight end with talent? I mean, let's be honest. After George Kittle, 49ers really don't have a lot of talent at the tight end position. They tried to go get one in the draft. Neither one of those guys looked like the guy, at least right now. I could see them actually. I mean, they drafted 2, and neither one of them panned out. So they obviously see the need for another tight end. Maybe
you almost have to wonder because they reworked the deal of Kittle and Armstead. Almost have to wonder that if Latu or Willis had shown enough during this offseason that they wouldn't have kicked the can down the road on Kittle's contract and maybe gotten out of it at the end of this year. But because they didn't, they're like, well, we don't have another option, so let's just go one more year and try to figure it out again next year. That's a good option. I don't know who would be available. I mean, tight ends there's not many elite ones, and not that you need an elite one, I guess, but I don't know. I don't know who's available out there. That's an interesting one, though. If one becomes available and it's a good player, I could see them making a move for a tight end for sure. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the guy's name. He was on the Chargers. Now he's on the Patriots. He's not even the first tight end over there, I don't believe.
Oh, Henry?
Henry. You don't like Henry?
Never. He's always been injured, man. He was so talented, man. When he was playing for the Chargers in that first stint, he was so talented, but he just can't stay healthy, man. He cannot stay healthy.
Yeah.
Good player, big talent, never came to fruition to health, and he's just kind of a shell of himself.
Anyway, they get Pitts. What would that require?
Man, I don't know how excited the Falcons would be to get rid of Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, no.
I don't know.
I mean, the Niners, that would be. I don't see any of their holes in their offense outside of, we're not talking about the offensive line. I think it's really hard to insert an offensive lineman, and I don't think they would do that unless somebody gets hurt out of the starting group. I don't think they would.
I don't think that those guys become available anyways. Like, good luck getting one. See, even teams that are rebuilding, Ryan, they're not going to be okay.
That's what you
let's
need.
ruin the trenches and rebuild that way. You rebuild by getting rid of outside talent, by getting rid of guys like wide receivers and running backs. You keep quarterbacks and trench players always. If you have trench players, you keep them. If you have a quarterback, you keep them. Everybody else is who you move. So yeah, I don't know.
I can see a tight end or a burner receiver.
For
I can
sure.
see
No,
that.
tight end. No, tight end. Listen, I didn't
Yeah.
even enter my mindset. Tight end for sure. Yes. If a Kyle Pitts, for example, became available, then you got to at least ask what they want for him.
Yeah. Yeah, they'd be deadly, man. I mean, and we'll see. Maybe Danny Gray comes back. They don't need that burner receiver, but I think burner receiver might be a possibility too. But if Danny Gray comes back and he looks as good as we hope, they're going to be deadly. I mean, we still have Danny Gray out there that's going to come back. I think a lot of people forget about that. There's a couple guys coming back. I think Luter Jr. is another guy that becomes available this week, right? He was on PUP. So
Yeah, I think so.
he could come back this week at corner. So I mean, 49ers, man, what I do like, and I don't even want to talk about this, but what I do like is that the Niners are relatively healthy right now, man. And it's great to
They are.
see. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's let's put that under the most impressive thing so far.
Yeah.
They've stayed relatively healthy. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've seen big players, big name players go down throughout this league. Two of the better corners in this league are done for the season. One, Tre'Davious White just lost his Achilles. Shout out to him. Prayers to him for the Buffalo Bills. That's a massive loss on a contending team. The Cowboys, another contending team, lost Trayvon Diggs. That's a massive loss. I mean, two top tier talent teams in this league lost big time players in the last couple of weeks. I mean, that's that. Sometimes the best team doesn't win. Sometimes the team that is the healthiest wins. And the 49ers not only look like the best team right now, but they are very, very healthy. So knock on wood that continues, because that can derail the season very, very quickly for teams. Very quickly.
Absolutely.
Speaking of the Dallas Cowboys, do you get the feeling that the season officially starts now? Because for me, something happened as soon as that game ended on Sunday and the Dallas Cowboys mollywopped the Patriots. I got excited again about the game, because when they lost Diggs and then they lost to the Cardinals, albeit without 3 starting offensive linemen, I was like, I don't know. It's just not as exciting anymore. And then when they got a little bit more healthy, and it sounds like they should get Smith back this week as well, which means they should be the healthiest they've been on the offensive line this season, and they blew out the Patriots the way that they did. I was like, okay, I'm excited again. Now I feel like the season is officially starting. And what helped was Deron Bland, I think, had 2 picks this last week. He's the one that's filling in for Trayvon Diggs. So he's a damn good player. He was a starter last year. Young kid himself, a lot of talent. He's not Diggs yet, but he's a very talented player. Make no mistakes about it. Last week, he was kind of going through the motions. This week, he got 2 interceptions. I believe one was for a pick 6. He's a very good player. So now all of a sudden, the excitement of the Cowboys game is here. And looking back at the first 4 games, it's like, okay, took care of business all the way through, which is great. Dallas Cowboys did not take care of business all the way through. That's why they lost to the Cardinals. Not every team does take care of business all the way through. So let's applaud the 49ers for that. But now I feel like we're getting into the thick of the season. Finally, this week. I am so excited for this marquee matchup on Sunday. I never talk about the opposing team on a Tuesday. I'm always looking back. I don't care anymore. I'm looking at the Dallas Cowboys. I want this win on Sunday. Are you getting that feeling as well, that excitement as well?
Well, definitely excited. And, as a coach, I'm not going to say the season starts Sunday, because every game matters. And, we saw last year they were a game or 2 of securing the number 1 seed. So they got to win all these games. All of them are important. What I think starts Sunday is the challenge, the actual challenge. The 49ers opponents so far through 4 weeks are 6-10 overall with 37.5% winning percentage. So the teams they play so far, not that great. The Dallas Cowboys are 3-1, a very good team. This is when the challenge begins. This is when we're going to find out what the 49ers are made of. This is when we're going to find out what Colton McKivitz and Spencer Burford can really do. This is when we're going to find out what Brock Purdy can do. This is when we're going to find out what the defense can do. So this is the first real challenge for the 49ers. And if they continue to play the way they've been playing against these other teams, and they come out here and smash and put up 30+ points and hold the Cowboys to, under 20, just like they did these other 4 teams, that's when you can just really be all in on this 49ers team. I mean, I am anyways, but if they come out and work the Cowboys like they've been working the Giants and the Steelers and the Cardinals, then there's a lot to be excited about from these 49ers moving forward. So this is when the challenge begins for the 49ers.
Well, and I'll say this too about the Cowboys. I expect the 49ers win this game. Okay. But the Dallas Cowboys of these two teams should be the more desperate team. Put it like this: the Dallas Cowboys have lost the last 2 years. Their season is ended due to the 49ers beating them. If they lose this game, how in your ever-loving mind do you go into the playoffs and know that when you run into the 49ers, that you can win that game in your heart? Like, you can't. You cannot lose to them the last 2 years and then come in this week and get beaten again and then have any confidence. I'm sorry, they're just not. This Sunday, to me, for the Cowboys is a must-win for their psyche. Because if they don't beat the 49ers this week, they've got zero shot in the playoffs if they inevitably meet again, which you would think that there's a big possibility of that. They're going to have to win this game. So I expect urgency from the Dallas Cowboys, like it's almost a playoff matchup. I really do believe that. Not that it is, or not that their season's done if they don't win. I get that. It's not a do or die, go home, but it is a do or die in the sense of their psyche cannot take this loss, in my opinion. They have to win this game. They just have to. Now, they're not going to, and that's cute that they feel that way. But that's why I think this game is so interesting to me, because I just feel like the urgency from the Cowboys is going to be on tilt this Sunday.
I mean, when I look at the Cowboys and the Niners, I see two very talented teams. I think the Niners are overall the most talented team in the NFL. I just feel that way. But the Cowboys are no joke, man. And I know, saw a guy in here say something about who have the Cowboys played. I mean, who have the Niners played? The Niners haven't the combined record for the opponents that they played is 6-10, 37.5% winning percentage. So neither way, you can say the Cowboys haven't played anyone yet. Well, the Niners haven't either then. So that's my point, is that both of these teams are super talented. And this is when the challenge begins. We'll find out more about both of these teams after this week. Now, the fact that the Cowboys lost to the Cardinals is a little telling about the Cowboys. However, like you pointed out, 3 starting offensive linemen were not in that game. That's a big difference. But the biggest problem for the Cowboys that I noticed when they played the Cardinals is they couldn't stop the run. I think the Cardinals had like 220-something plus rushing yards against the Cowboys. And if Connor and the Cardinals did that to you guys, and I'm speaking to the Cowboy fan, my boy Melvin's in the building. What's up, Melvin? I think we'll have you. Maybe we can get together on Saturday, have you on the channel, and we'll talk more. But and Law Nation is coming on Friday with Twin, by the way. But yeah, if the Cardinals can run on you, what do you think the Niners are going to do with CMC? If I'm predicting the Niners win, I'm going to predict it early. I'm not sure what the score is, but I really think the Niners are going to beat the Cowboys this weekend. But we'll see. I'm just excited that we get to play a talented team. I think the real telling point that's going to come out of this game is, what does McKivitz and Burford look like against that Dallas pass rush? That's really, I mean, we saw it. McKivitz struggled against Watt. Understandably, Watt's a phenomenal player. Cowboys got a few of them. Their pass rush right now, I just looking at some rankings, some people have their pass rush higher than the Niners. Very talented pass rush team. So that this line is going to be tested, and we'll get a true assumption of who they are after Sunday.
And their defense forces a lot of turnovers. They've been scoring points on defensive touchdowns like crazy. I think since 2021, they lead the league in defensive touchdowns. Like this, even when the defense wasn't good, it was very opportunistic, and now it's good and opportunistic. However, kind of like to your point, their strengths are pinning their ears back, getting after the quarterback, forcing them to make turnovers. Well, we like to run the ball, so good luck. Stop it. You're gonna have to stop that before you're gonna have to force Brock Purdy to do anything, and then you're gonna have to hope that all of a sudden he's just forcing the ball into bad spots, because he really hasn't done much of that this season. I mean, maybe 3 or 4 passes altogether. So,
yeah,
I don't know if those opportunities are going to arrive for those Cowboys.
And here's the thing with the Cowboys, like, we faced the Giants and they blitzed Brock Purdy at a crazy pace, 84 point something %, which was like one of the greatest amount of pressures that
Mhm.
blitzes that a quarterback has faced in a long time, and Brock Purdy did phenomenal. The thing is with the Cowboys, though, they can get after you with 4 guys,
That's the biggest difference. Yeah.
right? And they're going to drop back into coverage, and so it's going to be a different test for Brock Purdy in this offensive line.
Yeah, most certainly. Double B Studio says a couple of years ago, Derrick Henry had a shot but fell out of contention because he missed the last 3 games of the season. Can a QB miss a game and win? I think any player can miss a game and win, especially if their team loses that game. Like, I think if Jalen Hurts ended up missing 2 games, I think, last year, and they lost them both. If he would have only missed 1, I think that he still probably would have won MVP last year. But he missed a couple. So I think a quarterback can miss a game, especially if the team loses. Now, if the team wins in his absence, I think it's very, very hard to make that case. Very, very hard. Wins are not a quarterback stat. I get that. But when it comes to MVP, I mean, everything means everything. So Frank Tom Ocean says Falcons are not using Pitts. Let's go.
Let's go, Frank.
Oh, I agree.
Frank
I
Ocean.
agree.
Isn't he the singer? Isn't Frank Ocean a singer?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. All right. Nice to see you, Frank.
Yeah. I haven't heard a song from him in a long time. Double B Studio says other teams put up 40 plus. Why can't we? That's the crazy thing about this team is they really have left points on the board. And when you say that out loud, it's kind of insane to think, but they've left points on the board and they're scoring 30 every single freaking week. Like, my gosh.
I think the 49ers are going to have a game where they hit like 48 points or something crazy like that.
Yeah. Yes. The Vikings. We play the Vikings in a couple weeks. They can't stop anybody. So yeah, that's probably the week that it happens.
Yeah.
Okay. So we talked about the matchup this Sunday and does the season start this Sunday and what it means for the Cowboys. Let's assume that it is a tight game. Let's assume the 49ers don't come out here and blow them out and get this big lead and hold them off. Let's say it's a tight game.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you trust more right now to go win a game if they have to do it? Brock Purdy or Dak Prescott? I mean, that's what it could come down to. It might come down to the quarterbacks, the final few minutes of a game to go win this thing. Who do you trust more to get that job done on Sunday?
Well, first of all, I think Dak is underrated by 49er fans. I'll say that. Now, I'm not saying he's elite.
Agree.
He's not in that Josh Allen realm or anything like that, but I think he's
Some people thought Jimmy Garoppolo was better than him. So let's
yeah.
let's be clear, he's not.
Niner fans can get a little homer sometimes in their takes. I try to avoid doing that, but I think Dak Prescott is better than a lot of 49er fans give him credit for. That being said, Brock Purdy has never lost a game. So, I mean, who do I think is going to win a game? The guy who's never lost a game, who has Kyle Shannon dialing up plays and has all these weapons. I got to go Brock, man. Until Brock shows me that he can lose a game, which he has never done. He's never lost a game. He started and finished. Until that happens, I'm not going to say he's going to lose a game. I'm just not going to do it. Now, Niners have faced the Cowboys multiple times over the last couple of years, and Niners have always won the game. I mean, just based on history, I got to go Niners. I got to go Brock Purdy. Until Brock loses a game, I'm going to go with Brock, man. It's that simple. Now, Quinn is really good at testing the 49ers offense, and he knows how to scheme against it. Brock, that was probably Brock's worst game last year. I think they only had 19 points. Brock did struggle a bit against the Cowboys last year. So it is going to be challenging, I think. But if I had to bet money on who's going to win this game, which quarterback do I trust in that situation? I'm going to go with the guy who's never lost.
Yeah, Dak is a good quarterback. I agree. I do also agree that 49er fans underrate Dak for sure.
Yeah, he's a Cowboy, so they have to, I feel like.
Yeah, and you look at his turnovers that he had, what was it, in the 15 games, he had all these turnovers, and people all of a sudden thought he was a turnover machine. But Dak overall, actually throughout his career, has protected the football at a pretty damn high clip.
And I think he only has, one right now? One interception?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look at it. But Dak is Dak's a good football player. He is a pretty damn good football player. But there's something about him, at least so far. I haven't seen that quote unquote clutch gene from him that I need to see. And I haven't seen him in a lot of, big game situations, admittedly, other than those games against the 49ers, which he didn't look great in either of those. The other one that I saw him in a overtime game was against I believe it was the Jaguars last year. They had the ball with a chance to score, and he throws a pick right to a defender. So I've seen Dak fold in these moments. I have.
Yeah.
Now, we haven't seen Brock Purdy have to go win a game fully on his right arm or anything like that. But one thing that I've said about Brock since the beginning, since he took over immediately, was one thing I'm not going to question, knowing who he is, knowing who he was coming out of college. I am not going to question the mental fortitude of Brock Purdy.
Right.
Now, there might be some physical limitations, and we'll see how he works through those throughout his career. But from a mental standpoint, he is all the way dialed in. I expect that to continue. I don't know about Dak mentally, what he can carry and what he cannot. So I've got to see him prove something to me that I haven't yet seen, more than I've got to see Brock prove something that I haven't yet seen. So I'm going to go with Brock Purdy. I definitely trust him more. If the chips are down and the game is on the line, they each have a chance at it. I would trust Brock to lead this team to victory. So I'm going with Brock Purdy.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's not just Brock in the equation, right? There's CMC, there's Debo, there's Brandon Ayuk, there's George Kittle, there's Kyle
For sure.
Shanahan. And to me, with those weapons and based on what we've seen from Brock, who has never lost a regular season game, you got to go Brock Purdy in this situation to me. Now, Dak Prescott has some talent. I mean, his rookie year, Dak Prescott's rookie season was phenomenal.
For sure.
But I just don't think he's been that guy since completely. But I think it's obviously there and it's in him. He's actually, speaking of dinking and dunking, Dak Prescott is dinking and dunking the shit out of the ball this year. It's a change through their new offense, whatever they're doing over there. But he's dinking and dunking a lot. So that's also a big part of why he's not turning the ball over as often as he was before. So that's what I expect to see from Dak Prescott. He does tend to turn the ball over against the Niners, so we'll see what happens. But I'm not expecting a big turnover game from Dak Prescott like we're used to seeing. It's going to be a great game, man. Really looking forward to it.
I know. I'm looking so forward to Sunday. Let's see. Daza comes in and says, is there a decent second string corner out there? Ambry doesn't look like it unless Womack or Luter is. That's the question. I don't know. I don't know who's available. I don't know. And I gotta imagine
When you say
that
out
the
there,
Bills are going to be in the market too for a corner. They just lost a hell of a corner themselves. So I've got to imagine they would be in the market if anybody's out there. I don't know. We'll see who's out there. But Womack is a player that I liked a lot. I know that Luter has some potential, but he's a rookie. So who knows if he can just hit the ground running. Ambry was not good during training camp. We talked about it a lot. What we saw from him every time he was on the field, they picked on him. He looked pretty good during the preseason. It was like, okay, well, maybe Ambry's starting to turn a corner. As soon as he hit the field last week, they're like, oh, mouse in the house. We're attacking Ambry Thomas. They went at him 3 straight times. One time ended up being an incompletion, probably more due to Hollywood Brown releasing inside versus outside and not giving Dobbs much room to throw the ball where he really needed to. Because the very next play, Wilson released outside and they were able to make that connection. And then they got a touchdown right after, tricking him with an underneath route. So I don't trust Ambry either. I wish I could. I really liked Ambry Thomas. I stood up for him a ton his rookie year. People were piling on him. I'm like, listen, I get it. There's the one play a game where he's getting mossed or whatever. But if you look at him, play in and play out, he looks really good. And I was on that train. And then he made the pick to end the season and send the 49ers to the playoffs. I was like, I told you, Ambry Thomas is better than y'all think. He has not been that since that year. He just hasn't. He's not been the same player. The confidence isn't there for whatever reason. He's not the guy. So I agree. I don't have any confidence in Ambry Thomas. And I would like to see them kick Lenore inside. I think that would be ideal.
The one, if I can have one complaint about this season so far, and getting rid of Jameson and Knight, not putting Jameson and Knight on this team was I had them on my 53. I wish we would have had those guys. I think they're going to be good players in this league. Unfortunately, they're not here. So now we're in a position where, we got to rely on these guys. So far, I mean, I think they're doing okay. The thing about being a corner on the 49ers, it's great. It's kind of like being a quarterback on the 49ers. You have all these great elite weapons around you that makes your job a little easier. When you're a corner on the 49ers, you got a crazy elite pass rush and linebackers and safeties to help you out. So you can get by with serviceable corners for the most part. And I think, it's hard to judge Ward and Lenore and Thomas completely because of the team they're on.
Yeah, I do agree with that. What's hard about this team, Ryan, is that the 49ers were so close to going to a Super Bowl last year. I think a lot of people believe that if Brock Purdy didn't get hurt, that they would have beaten the Eagles and they had a shot against the Kansas City Chiefs. So the question is, like, maybe this team as is good enough to win a Super Bowl. Like, that's entirely possible. This is a very good team. Maybe they would have done it last year, but we don't know the answer to that question. If they had fallen short, like, let's say Brock had stayed healthy and they lost that game against the Eagles, then we would at least have the answer of, you know what, this team is very good. We've seen it in the regular season, but when it mattered most, they couldn't beat the Philadelphia Eagles. They probably got to add something at the trade deadline.
Yeah.
Now we don't know the answer to that question. The answer could be they are good enough as currently constructed and were good enough last year to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And because we don't know the answer to that question, I think maybe we'll see. I think the 49ers will make a move, but maybe that puts the 49ers and even the fans in a spot where they're like, hey, we're good enough as is. And they might be, but I would rather them go make a play and go get an upgrade somewhere where maybe they're not the strongest, whether it's an outside corner, pass rusher, whatever they can go get to upgrade anywhere.
Yeah.
And not need that upgrade, then need that upgrade and be like, well, we didn't make the move and we just blew the year. We lost in the NFC Championship game again. God, it would have been nice to have the corner to cover AJ Brown, but we didn't have it. So tough luck. Maybe next year. That's what I don't want to see.
And to be honest, Jesse, here's my worry about this season. The solution. I'll give you the solution, the worry and the solution, right? The worry coming into this season, and I'm not one of those guys that thinks the Niners were going to beat the Eagles in that game. I think they would have lost because I think it doesn't matter who the quarterback was. They lost in the trenches. They were getting their ass kicked on both sides. Now, the difference this year, adding Hargrave, huge. The improvement from Kinlaw is huge, right? That's great on the defensive side of the trenches. Drake Jackson, improvement, big, right? So I think they have improved on the defensive line, and I'm glad to see it. On the offensive line, I don't know if I don't think McKivitz is necessarily an improvement over McGlinchey. He's cheaper, which is great, but I think they're similar in that regard. Now, the way you overcome that, the solution when you face a team that's going to be coming after you, that's up to Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy to make the adjustments in the protection and the scheme to get the ball out quick. I didn't like the play calling from Kyle Shanahan in that game. I didn't like the game management in that game. I didn't think he played to the strengths of the 49ers offense or against the strengths of the Eagles defense. So can they win a Super Bowl against these elite teams with elite pass rushers when the weakness to me on the 49ers is still the offensive line on that right side? Yes, but Kyle Shanahan's going to have to dial that up. He's going to have to dial up that protection. He can't be dialing up 7-step dropbacks with Brock Purdy when you got Colt McKivitz out on an island against the elite pass rusher. So Kyle's got to get in his bag in that regard. Brock also needs to recognize when he's in those situations and dial up his own protections and make adjustments. If they can do that, I think they can win this Super Bowl. But I don't think that the Niners were going to beat the Eagles last year based on how the game was going.
Yeah, I had issues with that game plan for sure.
Yeah,
talked about it all week. I'm not going to rehash all that. I think my points are definitely out there if you want to hear them again. But I think some of that could start this week. And what they should have done last year with Parsons, they didn't do until the second half. I mean, they should have done the same thing to Reddick. They didn't do it.
Right.
You run at them. You make them play football in the run game.
Right.
You use their instincts against them. You leave them unblocked, allow them to get upfield, and then throw a screen behind them and make them chase before you start mixing in play action and 7-step drops and all those other things. You start to go at them and tire them out. Then that's when you go for the haymakers. You start with the body blows, then you start working up top. That's how you go at an elite pass rush or pass rusher. The 49ers did not do that in the first half against Dallas. I think that was why they struggled a little bit.
Yeah.
They did not do that out the gate against Philadelphia. And I would like to see them certainly do that this week with that game plan. Hopefully they've learned something. I think we're going to find that out. Ing Talk TV says, what's poppin', fellas? Who do I talk to get Trey to sign my 49er flag? I'm in Cali. I don't know. You probably talked to him or the Dallas Cowboys.
Hit up his agent.
Talking Head says, I was late listening to the Cowboys part. I will say the Cowboys did a good job shutting down Purdy last season, and that was with CMC. For sure. Very, very good team. Very good team. We'll see how it plays out. This is the toughest test. I don't know if it's enough for the 49ers to lose, though. John V. What's up, John? He says, Jesse and Ryan, is this the final game that solidifies Purdy as the face of the franchise officially? Undoubtedly passing all tests, or will there be further expectations? This game is massive for Purdy in San Francisco moving forward. I'm going to stay consistent, John. I got to see 3 years from quarterbacks. I'm sorry. Jalen Hurts had a hell of a year last year. I just talked about him as the MVP. Going into this year, I said I want to see one more year. Trevor Lawrence, everybody's like, he's a top blah, blah, blah. And while I agree he's ascending and has the talent, I still wanted to see one more year out of him before I'm fully sold. You see guys flash, you see guys not. Now, I don't think Brock Purdy's just going to take a massive back step. That I don't see. Brock Purdy's not going to go from where he's at now to out of the league or anything crazy like that. He's not going to turn into a Nick Foles. I don't see that happening for him. But could I see a situation where a lot of this talent gets stripped away and he goes into being like a top 17, top 15 quarterback consistently? Sure. And can you win with that and rebuild the talent around him? And when that talent's around him, he can play like a top 10 guy? Absolutely. But franchise quarterback for me is like, you are worth $50 million a year and you can carry a team when the chips are down. I'm not going to say he is. I'm not going to say he isn't. I'm going to continue to say, give me my 3 years. All right. Just give me my 3 years. That's where I'm at with it.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's why rookie contracts for 3 years before you can renegotiate. Right. So
maybe I think the league is onto something there, right? Like the league is onto something when they do these things. So I agree. I think that's in place for a reason.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, if he beats the Cowboys, though, I know, regardless of what Jesse or, excuse me, I think the fans are going to be nuts all over him, which is great.
Yeah. Well, bottom line is Brock Purdy for this year has proven what he needs to prove. Like, and he's going to continue to do that. Like, the question shouldn't be, is Brock the franchise quarterback? Because we don't need to know the answer to that question. Quite frankly, it doesn't matter. They can't pay him until after next season anyways. They can't pay him this offseason. The question is he enough right now for this team that is in a must-win Super Bowl mode? I don't think the Cowboys game is going to change that. I think we knew the answer to that really after last year. We knew that he could be enough with this team to win.
Yeah.
We'll know more going forward for sure as the years pass, but I don't care about next year. I want to win a Super Bowl this year. I'm tired of the quest for 6 and this is our year. No, win the damn thing now. You have the talent. You have the quarterback. You have the coach. Win it now. That's where I'm at with it. So, and I believe that he can win it now with this team. And that's ultimately all I care about. So that being said, great show, Ryan, midday show. We'll do it again next Tuesday. I know that you're doing what? You're going at noon every day this week, except for Wednesdays. Sounds like you got a pretty booked week as well. I'll be back tonight with Sunil. So make sure you tap in then. And until then, peace.